Hey there, friends. This is kind of a part two to what I was sharing with you yesterday, a meeting with writers or meetings with writers. This is a picture of someone important to Alan Potkin who went down in a plane crash. If you follow up on the stories that he's telling in his visual presentation, you'll see that what's important about that airplane is the fuel that it took but wasn't given, and according to Alan's tale. Now, he's been doing some investigative sort of sleuth work, detective work on what really did happen. And he has this current theory that it might have had something to do with a Pentagon program to allow basically very incapable people to join the military on the theory that this would improve their lives, which of course it did not. Going to Vietnam was basically just trauma. So we were also talking about this Buckminster Fuller, The Synergetic Man, from an analog science fiction magazine or pulp fiction, not pulp fiction, but it was a small magazine format, I'm trying to say. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't own this, and I haven't actually seen what the actual. I'd like to see if I can get a hard copy eventually of this essay, but it really gives. I'd say this might be my new number one entry point into the Bucky stuff because it has so much of his worldliness. We could call it the world game side of Bucky. And then the very last paragraph, again, this is part two, so if you wonder why I'm talking about this or what this is, the previous video might be enlightening. I introduce who the author is and so forth. It's from 1972, this article. And the author concludes with this paragraph. But Buckminster Fuller must experience a loneliness beyond that of the aged great, for inside his head is a fully formed vision of the totality of the universe, entirely valid or not, which transcends the possibility of verbalization in his own tongue. Indeed, in any known language, ideogrammic, this ideogrammic symbol for the universe from which his various and manifold concepts, inventions, and achievements radiate like the light of some internal sun, must be a thing of blinding beauty to Fuller himself. Inside his head is a dazzling work of art which only he will ever really see. It must be a heavy and glorious burden to bear. What's good about that ending paragraph is it's a segue, right? Because since then, 1972, Fuller did come out with his two-volume magnum opus, which is a lot what this particular channel is about. Because I'm to the point of like, I think it's kind of malpractice on the part of many professionals to not see it as their professional responsibility to communicate the futurism of the recent past and some of the cultural quote unquote baggage that goes along with that, right? So I'm trying to make up for that by doing a channel that points out what I see missing, missed opportunities, I often call it, just to call your attention to all of this, but then to say, hey, there's a lot more to all of these stories that I won't ever get to or would take forever because I'm like this one AA battery kind of, I'm in a place where I can get away with doing this because I have optical fiber and so I can upload fast. And as of today, I even have heat, right? It's been cold around here, but not in the actual living quarters. It's just a bigger house than we actually occupy some times of the year. But in any case, climate change on a small scale over here, which can be important on a small scale. Like, call me trim tab, sure, but I don't want to be the one and only trim tab. Nobody does, right? It's teamwork. So I'm kicking the ball out there in the hopes that other people will start kicking the ball around, so to speak, right? And yes, I have a history and it's all very well documented. So you don't have to wait for finding the right YouTube or when am I going to get around to it. Because I'm not relying entirely on YouTube to tell my biography or any of that. Nor am I running for president, so I'm not expecting any wild rush to read about me either. But in case you're wondering, am I a well documented person? I would say yes, on average. very accessible through internet and so forth in terms of biographical data. One thing going for me is my name is quite unusual, Kirby Erner. Kirby is a fairly common name. It means by the church, Kirk by, but more often as a last name, really. And then Erner Strange. And I have some videos about that. It's actually a Swiss name. It has nothing to do with urns. But there is the pun that by the church is the cemetery, and that gets you thinking about, internment and urns and all that. So there is a kind of funereal uh, puns that float around the name. That's mnemonics, right? In case you're wanting to go back later, Kirby Erner, cemetery, urns, whatever. You will find that I have lots of blogs and um, writings on Medium, and a good place to start would be my World Game blog because that's worldgame.blogspot.com. Down the right side are links to other resources, including if you're really into like STEM type stuff, computer programming, and so on, then I would recommend my Oregon Curriculum Network, which, how would I get there actually? 4D Solutions. But this is kind of a roadblock for a lot of people because they're going to get to my logo here and not know to click on the logo. So it's kind of like a secret. But I'm telling you because you're watching on YouTube. So click the thing a couple times, the duotet, and you'll come to this Oregon Curriculum Network website, which takes you to a mathematical canvas. And you can learn a lot more nitty gritty synergetics from here. Synergetics being a lot more of the story when it comes to this last paragraph. What Fuller did indeed have inside his head, you could say, the way we talk. All right, so let's pick this up soon. I'll be looking forward to a next episode. In the meantime, I'm watching a ton of you guys. I'm watching the rest of the internet. And I am going through a lot of politics these days. This is a kind of important season. So I'm going through quickly. And again, I'll probably be asleep through some of these. And autoplay just plays for me. So I was awake for Alan Watts here. And this one, Don't Be Scared, It's All a Show. He mentions Quakers. And he kind of caricatures Quakers as kind of being frowny, kind of being like have a frown on their face because they're always concerned, quote unquote, concerned. And he's kind of making fun of that in some ways. And that could be a bridge to my next video. What about Quakers? Because that's, something I talk about quite a bit. So, again, if you want to dive deeper down the rabbit hole of, and by rabbit hole, I just mean interesting, twisty path. If you want to follow that with Alan, go back a video in this chronology and look in the description for a link to his story, which both has a foreground story and a background story. And Alan has come here and talked to Thirsters not that long ago, and one of my own channel videos has stuff about Alan's talks. Alan talking here in Portland not that long ago, in particular. So I'll bring that up in a new video in the next video as well, and give you a hard link to it. All right, we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.